The secret to Dean Sorenson's success is rooted in the soil of the South Dakota towns where he grew up. Dean learned the timeless values of honesty, hard work, and community service that still define South Dakota, and Sorenson Broadcasting became the North Star for the state's largest homegrown media company. Dean strongly believes that to prosper is to give back to the community you serve and to bring them news from down the street. Throughout his career, Dean mentored many broadcasting professionals who still lead stations throughout the state. One would be hard-pressed to find a local radio broadcaster who has not been touched by Dean's mentorship and wise counsel.
Thank you. My notes here did not start with Greg Sand's benediction, so I'll do that other one. Great to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'd like to start off with a couple of thank yous. Nobody gets to this podium without a lot of people in their path along the way, and I'm one of those. Thanks to the Hall of Fame for this honor. I'm proud of my South Dakota heritage. I'm proud of that South Dakota life, and so proud to share it with you. This has been a great experience, and I look forward to sharing and being part of helping South Dakota grow through the Hall of Fame. To the other 9 members of our class of 24, half of them I don't think I'd met until this evening or this week, and I'm looking forward to that relationship. Congratulations to each of you and your special stories. It's been inspiring tonight. To my family, I'd like to give my special thanks to my wife in the front row down here, Rita. Rita became a South Dakotan at the same time we exchanged our I-dos. And she remains with us and has skillfully brought together a unique blended family. We have 5 adult children and all of their offspring, or many of them are here tonight, all into a blended family that enjoy each other and enjoy sharing our journeys together. We have some great-grandchildren that we decided too young to be here tonight, and most of our grandchildren are here, except a couple that are off for college. Saturday night, they're probably at the library studying and getting ready for next week. Class, thank you, Rita, for what you've done for our family. Along with our family groups, we have a lot of the family from our Sorenson Broadcasting days that are with us tonight, and that was such a proud journey for all of us as we served those communities and tried to be good citizens in business and in service to our community. Thanks for showing up, folks, and thanks for the journey. It's been great memories all along the way. And then we have a bunch of the South Dakota Broadcasters Association people who showed up and are here. Thank you, folks. Radio folks and television folks, I got to tell you, they're the fiercest competitors, but the best friends you could ever have in business. So we thank them. Well, I've long bragged that I became a South Dakotan by birth, and I've remained one by choice. Looking back, I don't recall a privileged life at all. I was raised by parents who, on a daily basis, offered unconditional love, respect, a set of rules that I really don't believe I questioned, and a promise that I could and should pursue my own dreams, friendships, and adventures that would tickle my soul and excite my heart, or vice versa. My folks were raised, Andrew and Barbara were their name, they were raised in the dirty 30s, and they never forgot the trials and tribulations of living in those days. We practiced thriftiness in our household on a regular basis. They were privileged to meet and then graduate from our church's Dakota Wesleyan University, Mitchell down the road here. Mom was an educator, county superintendent of schools back in the days we had those in our state, and until her retirement, she was in the classroom. Dad was a school superintendent. He really wished that he could just be a coach. He liked coaching young men and helping them along their path, but he found out the superintendent's job paid a little more money and provided a little more security for the family. And in those days, the schools were getting tougher and tougher about having specialties, and so we kind of had to move along to a smaller school so he could be both superintendent and the coach. People always say, how did you move from Trail City to Timber Lake to Raymond to Agar to Alpena? Well, there's the story. We were moving along, specializing in being a superintendent coach. Interestingly, both of our families, or both of our sides of our family, have been overflowing with educators as long as I've been around. We've had college presidents up in Brookings. My Aunt Aline was a favorite first grade teacher for decades in that school. I'm the family loner that didn't follow that path. Actually, the one person who didn't follow higher education to the completion. As I look back, maybe I felt I had enough education on the home front, because after all, 2 or 3 times a day, I was at the dinner table, one-on-one with the superintendent of schools. I justified a lot of things at that age. But the one lesson I learned as we moved from Trail City to Timberlake to those little communities, in every town, there were some lessons to be learned from teachers and schoolmates, from everybody in the community. I had my first seem like a Boy Scout experience at about age 8 when Reverend Walker at the Alpena Methodist Church got a bunch of us boys together and treated us like maybe we were scouts, and we did some of those things. And then I had real Cub Scout and Boy Scout lessons when I lived in Huron. Mr. Wormstead, Mr. Galloway, Mr. Christian were scout masters. Then I moved to Mitchell, and the Church Youth Fellowship was a place where Mrs. Roth and Mrs. Bauman were mentors of mine. And their school coaches like Stone and Quinto and Crockett, names I still remember this day. Each of these folks, and many were like them, had nothing to gain by enhancing my chances for success in life, but each had a heart of giving and sharing and making a difference in the lives of the children who crossed their paths. While I'm not always one to pick up things real fast, or as early as I should maybe, early in adulthood, I realized that I'd been blessed by these experiences, and today we call it mentoring. It was probably called mentoring then, but as far as I knew, it was just people who stepped off the sidewalk and said, hey, you want to visit a minute or two, or gave me an idea or some encouragement, and that all enhanced me throughout life. So now, after living in parts of 10 decades on the calendar, I'm still proud to reflect back on our Sorenson broadcasting history. We had some great people, as I mentioned earlier, that put together this little company, and we went around the Midwest and some small towns and thought we gave pretty good radio service. We did, I believe, and more so, though, I'm proud to reflect on the associates who signed up, showed up, suited up every day for daily leadership and service in those communities. While the government granted us licenses to run radio stations, our company flourished most when it provided a growth path for men and women who manned those radio stations. Many grew, became better leaders, and many went on to even bigger challenges and platforms to serve. When they came on board with us, among other things, we promised one thing, and that was that our managers would take them as maybe average people and help them become above average achievers. Every person who joined the company would start becoming better from that day on, and when and if they felt they needed to leave the company, they'd be much better equipped for a better job and for a better living. Talking about those who left our company, there were some. We always liked them to stay for life, but they didn't all. We had a culture there about all employee exits for whatever reason, their choice or our choice. It would be one where the employee left with a positive impression and feeling. We'd say, we don't know how long they'll be an employee, but when they leave, they're going to be an employee for life, ex-employee for life. And our purpose was that we wanted them to leave with a good feeling, and as they talked to friends in the community, they would at least point out the things that we could offer as a place to live and work. So as we wrap up tonight's gathering, I have a hope and pledge for each of us and a little goal setting for us. Goals are to be achievable, reasonable, something that all of us can do. And I would hope that each of us would make a mental note and a point on our heart to become better mentors in the world we live. And I've seen this group over the weekend, and there's a lot of talent in this organization and in this room. So what if each of us promised that in the next year we would take 4 extra steps, 4 people to reach. That's once a quarter, one every 3 months, to reach out, grab a person maybe after church or after Sunday school or at school or at work and help them through maybe a challenge they're having in their life. Meet for coffee, have a huddle, pick up the phone, check in, check on progress. That's the way we make progress in South Dakota, person to person, in a personal way. In my adult life, I've also enjoyed the benefits of being mentored. And I'm going to wrap up by telling you about my all-time mentor, and that was a longtime business partner of mine. Some of you may know Jerry Simmons of Sioux Falls. Jerry covered South Dakota, from Edgemont to Big Stone City, from Lemon to Dakota Dunes, offering and instructing the Dale Carnegie course. It was a program, he was a master of helping people improve their skills, and more importantly, their confidence. Because with improved confidence comes renewed and enlarged expected outcomes for the life we're living and pursuing. And that's just what mentoring's all about. We help people look in the mirror and see a little different, more positive person than they did yesterday before we touched their hearts or their soul. Jerry was a master at this. He, as I say, traveled all over the state, and many of us had the pleasure of working with him. And I've had a lot of partners in life, and he's one of the premiers at the top. And often he would wrap up and talk to people, and he had a piece of poetry he'd like to share about enlarging the picture we all have of where we could and should be. It was written by a poet by the name of Rittenhouse, and the poem is simply a penny. May I share it with you? I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, at evening, I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. It gives you what you ask, but once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I'd asked of life, life would have gladly paid. Thank you, Hall of Fame. Thank you all. Let's be great South Dakotans. Good night and God bless.